Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 5-Star Joshi Show here on the Fight Game Media Network. I am your host, as always, Scott Edwards, and with me today is none other than Steven Conway. Of course, Steven Conway of Fight Game Media Network. Steven, thank you so much for joining me once again. This is the second time coming on.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me on one of the biggest weeks in Stardom history. I'm thrilled for this show. I am fired up in a way I haven't been for women's wrestling in a very long time.
Yeah, this, as I've said to people, it's the show. This is the show in Stardom history. It's really the show for the first time in a long time for women's wrestling, especially in Japan. This is the big staple, and I want to give it as much attention as it deserves. So I'm happy to have you on. And what I did last week was I had someone on who used to be a Stardom fan, fell out a little bit just because 2020 was such a tough year for them, and jumps in and out from time to time. And then I'll have later on this week someone who watches just as much as me to kind of just talk about the top matches. But this is our full-on preview here. I got Steven. We're going to get into it. It is an absolutely loaded show, top to bottom, a little bit of everything for everyone. So before we get into the full show per se, what about this show excites you the most? Of course, All Star Grand Queendom, for those who may not know what we're talking about here today.
There are a couple of things that I'm pretty fired up about, but the number one is actually the Giulia Tam Nakano match. And they have done such a great job building this into something very special. And it's a totally different build than the Shirai Giulia build for Queendom last year. There in December at the end of the year. It's a very heated thing, and they have done a couple of things, and I know you've talked about them on the show, that they don't normally do. We saw a little blood at a press conference. We saw Tam hacking off a chunk of Julia's hair and forcing her to cut some of those locks off there. So this has more steam on it than usual. And while I host a show all about New Japan, and so we are always kind of keeping an eye on the IWGP Women's Championship and Mercedes Moné, one of the biggest names in the business, the match I'm here for, Scott, is that Giulia Tam Nakano match, because both of them are willing to work stiff. You know they're going to beat the living hell out of each other. And both of them are some of the very best female workers in the world. They are obviously very motivated to put on a good match here, because no one again, we've talked about this before with Wrestle Kingdom, and these Stardom shows are starting to get like this. No one wants to have the second best match on the night. So they're going to be amped up. These are two great workers in an angle with a lot of steam on it, and it caught my attention. As much as I'm looking forward to Mayu and Mercedes, which would be great, these two are going to be special.
Brad, you asked for no more shoot headbutts. That is,
amen, brother.
That I don't mean to break your heart, but Giulia does not know what that means. I am very sorry. So that is her thing. But thank you for both of you and Venji and Brad. Welcome to the show. Thank you for listening. But yeah, Steven, I think the interesting part about this, and as I've talked about it with some people through the past couple of weeks, even though there is this big dream match that obviously I'm very outspoken about, sorry everyone, I'm going to be outspoken again about it later on, but even though there's the big dream match, they have built the world title match to be the deserving main event, despite there being a big dream match. And I think that's a credit to both of them and what they've been able to do. And we'll get really into it later on, but it's hard not to be excited for that match, right? It's just going to be incredible. Venji, they're definitely going to be some in that match. Yeah, it's inevitable, welcome, everyone. Thank you all, everyone, for joining. But what I can't wait to talk about with this show is literally everything. There is something on this show for everyone. And I have gone as far to not only say this is the biggest women's show in the past 2 decades or so, and people are going to say maybe Evolution here in the States, that was a big show, but this is the best of the best from all around the world. Once you get we can include Mercedes now, so it is the best of the best from all around the world. And we've come together to make pretty much the closest thing we're going to get to Dream Slam in the year 2023. For those who don't know, Dream Slam was a major show for the world of Joshi back in the day. Just it was at the height of Joshi, and listen, getting back to that height of Joshi is a lot of work. It was a different being back then. It really was for professional wrestling as a whole. but this is the closest we're going to get for now, and it feels special for that reason alone. We have the whole Joshi scene coming on here, so Steven, let's get into it. We have a lot to talk about, so I don't want to. We're going to talk about each match for who knows how long, but we're going to start off here. We got the Yokohama Rumble. We have one participant. One. That's it. Momo Nakanishi, former All Japan Women's Champion. Not a bad start. Not a bad start.
Yeah.
As we've seen in Stardom's history, last time they had a big Rumble like this at All Star Dream Cinderella in 2021. Of course, Giulia and Tam main event of that show as well. We saw the great Chigusa Nagayo in that match. We saw Emi Sakura in that match. Yuzuki Aikawa, of course, the big time star at the beginning of Stardom. We saw a number of big stars, but of course, Nagi Sayaka walked out with the win. Not Nagayo, not Aikawa, not any of those. It was, of course, a Stardom star who walked out of it, and it proves to be a Rumble of sorts that can elevate a wrestler, even if you may not see it as that big of a deal going into it. It's like, oh, this is fun, get everyone on the card. It can elevate a wrestler. Nagi Sayaka used that win to not only have a strong 5-star Grand Prix, but get a Wonder of Stardom title match later that year. It really pushed her forward. So, Steven, knowing who's not on this card, is there anyone that you would like to see kind of stand out that you don't notice maybe in another match?
Well, yes, there's one that jumps out at me. She was a semifinalist in the tournaments, Waka Tsukiyama, which makes a lot of sense right there. I don't see her on the rest of this card. And since they put so much time and effort into her, I could see her having a strong run in this as well. You mentioned how this can be used to build somebody up. I believe not all long ago, not in a Yokohama Rumble, but they did a Rumble on another big show that had Mirai go wire to wire, I think, right? Didn't they?
That was the Rambo.
It was a Rambo. Okay.
In historic crossover.
Yep, there you go. So that was a hint of things to come because her career has been on the upswing ever since. And, you know, this is something that they've been building up with Waka. I would like to see Waka get a big run in this thing. There are a few other folks that aren't on this list here that could be, but they put a lot of time into her. So I would not be surprised if Waka was there close to the end. What do you think?
Yeah, Waka, I think, might be the favorite heading into the match, maybe for the first time ever in her career. She is a favorite.
She's always one of my favorites.
It makes sense, right? Kind of have her overcome because, again, what I didn't talk about with the Nagi Sayaka win is that she had lost a lot. She just went through a 7-match series, I believe, where perfectly simple, she got her ass kicked. That's what she did the whole time. But then she went into that Rumble and was able to pull it off, and it was the big babyface win. It definitely feels like Waka could do that. A few other people to jump in maybe would be Hanan, of course. They have high hopes for her down the road. Saida might be in this match multiple ways. Of course, we have super strong Stardom machine as a possible option, as well as Saida. But yeah, I think Waka Tsukiyama would be my pick too. And I'm excited to see if there are any more legends besides just the great Momo Nakanishi. I'm sure there will at least be one more. They won't hold back as long as they can get someone. And I think that'll be really cool. But this is the match. This is one of the 2 matches we won't really talk in depth about. But someone has a great point. Every match is worth talking about, especially Big Hash and Shuri has potential to steal the show. Oh, we're gonna talk about stealing the show because there's like 4 or 5 matches that I think can steal the show. Big part of me wants Tam to win, but I don't see Giulia losing. We're gonna get to it. They have built that matchup perfectly for the main event.
You can make arguments either way, and I think we're going to later.
Yes. Next up, we'll have Fuchan and Hazuki teaming up against Utami Hayashishita and Mayu Iwatani.
You can't have a wrestling show without a YouTube star anymore, can you?
No. So for those who don't know or never saw her match, Fuchan is not only a gigantic star in Japan. I've talked to people who've been to Japan. Justin Nipper of the Fight Game Media Network, he's talked to me about it. Like when he went there for the Muto show, he just saw her face everywhere. That's how big of a celebrity she is. Yeah, we can call her a YouTube star, but it goes a lot further than that. She's on a lot of TV shows and stuff like that. And her first match was excellent. She had a great showing in that first match, which is really exciting. Of course, she's trained by Hazuki, so it's only fitting that these two team up. I believe on the official graphic now on the website, she's actually officially a part of Stars, which I noticed, which is very cool and very fitting because she very much fits into that feel of Stars. But going against Utami Hayashishita and, of course, Miyu Amasaki, this match came about, for those who don't know, kind of out of Utami, talking to Tokyo Sports saying, listen, Fuchan, she kind of walked in and showed the world what she's all about really quickly. And I want my rookie, Miyu Amasaki, to get that chance to do the same against her. And that's what led to this match. Of course, we had to wait for Hazuki to lose the IWGP Women's title match to make this official. But here we are. I'm interested to see not only how much she's grown, because of course she hasn't wrestled in a while, Fuchan that is, but also if Utami, what level does Utami go to in this match? Because she is the big one here, right? You and me have talked about this many times. When does the Utami push come back around, right?
Right.
It's coming. It's just a matter of I don't know when.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing because she's obviously one of the best on the roster, and you don't have to look too hard to see that in her matches, but she hasn't had a whole lot to do since the 5-star Grand Prix. She's just been kind of there. And, she's had some matches. I think she had that match with Kyrie and things, and it's not that she's been forgotten about, but not really in the mix. It hasn't been about her. And even within her own group, she's been a little bit outshined in some cases by Izumi, by Saya Kamatani and things. So it's odd to watch some Queen's Quest matches where Utami is third from the last introduced. So it does feel like it's just about time, but who knows? I mean, they might be waiting just to really trigger things in the Grand Prix this year for her. But I hope that there is something prominent for her. She's been a little too talented to be on the back burner this long.
Yeah, so Venji says, I need Utami to get a pay-per-view win. It has been a long time. We don't get those much more. Hazuki is incredibly underrated. Utami just felt so ice cold ever since she dropped the red belt. Yeah, these two are kind of on a opposite trajectory. Yeah. Hazuki is rising like a phoenix through the ranks right now, right? She had that incredible match with Saya Kamatani for the Wonder Stardom Championship. Then she goes into the IWGP Women's title match and is really, for me, the highlight star of the match. What were they chanting? Hazuki's name.
Yeah, they were chanting Hazuki. She was the most over of the three in terms of getting the crowd into it. I mean, they took to her really quickly, and she was very impressive in bringing that out of that crowd, which was not dead at all for the match. That was a hot crowd that night, but in New Japan. But again, these were people that they weren't totally familiar with, and Hazuki got them into her, and she did a terrific job, and might have been the best person in that match, and that's a tough league.
It is, and when it comes to picking this match, it's not as easy as you may think. Like Fuchan lost her first match. That was obvious. She was facing one of the members of the match of Saya Kamatani, Wonder of Stardom champion. This time around, no one's a champion, and Hazuki's red hot. So it's like I could see either side win. I'm gonna still lean on Utami and Miyu Amasaki because they are the full-time roster members. But if the big celebrity got the big win, I wouldn't be all too shocked. You can have Hazuki pin Miyu Amasaki too. It's not like we need Fuchan winning the match per se for them. You can still have that moment though of Fuchan getting her first win because she seems to want to keep doing this. Now,
makes sense.
Now I will say to everyone in the chat again, thank you for joining me. If you have questions throughout the show, feel free to comment. I will happily answer them. Steven will too, of course, but we'll attack them. So make sure to leave comments. Thank you so much for joining us, of course. We got someone's asking for more headbutts, please. Well, listen, if you tell Giulia that, she will answer. Giulia does them on house shows. She doesn't care.
You're a sick man, Pedro. Sick man.
She doesn't care. I could see Miyu eating the pin, to be honest. I do too. That's why I think it's a real toss-up. I think Hazuki could definitely pin her. So let's move on to...
It feels like that's why Mayu's in the match, is to protect the other three.
Does it? That's the interesting. Do they protect the celebrity who lost the first time? Hino was in that match, so it's not like they didn't have someone that could have got pinned then.
It's true.
But Utami is not the Wonder Stardom champion, and I wanted to add this in. Utami has had to watch her top two stablemates, Azumi and Saya Kamatani, have year-long title reigns. She's just been waiting for one of them to lose. Be like, hey, we can go be like tag champs or something. Like, what are we waiting for? But so maybe tonight this show will be the night that happens. But our next match here is the Club Venus trio. I don't have the picture of Jessie here, poor girl. But it will be Jessie, Xena, and Mariah May teaming with Tekla against the Oedo Tai 4 of Natsuko Tora, Momo Watanabe, Saki Kashima, and Ruaka. Obviously, something sticks out here, and that is Tekla being.
What the hell's Tekla? Did Tekla sign the wrong contract? Was she like, did she not read Japanese well that day? And was like, oh, I signed the wrong sheet of paper. Where's my Sakurai? What the hell happened?
Based on her face, she wasn't all too happy having to be in this match, and she hasn't been happy this whole time. That being said, I think the interesting part of this match, while it is the weakest on the show by default, not really anyone's fault here. It's just like, it is what it is. Club Venus is obviously getting built up. They are now their own thing.
Yeah.
They're their whole new thing. We'll get into the soap opera that is the Cosmic Angels, as we talk about Tam Nakano and Mia Shirakawa later on. But now that they're on their own thing, we know the push for these 5 are coming. That being said, Oedo Tai works great as a faction. They rarely lose when they're all together. And I think maybe because Tekla's in with them, that could throw them off in the end.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, isn't it? That they could have some sort of miscommunication or work their way towards some sort of disagreement or something like that, and it doesn't pan out for them. Yeah, you're right. They, especially in multi-person tags, and by multi-person, I mean like 3 and 4 to a side, so 6, 8 woman tags. Oedo Tai has a pretty strong win-loss record in Stardom. Like, Rossi doesn't like beating them in these types of matches. So yeah, I feel like there's something like that. I mean, Club Venus is fascinating to me in a lot of ways. Mariah May is pretty talented. I think she's actually done a fairly good job.
Yeah.
Xena is pretty good. She's still dry. There's still some hiccups there. And Jessie's not very good. So, and I remember Jessie Kamea from NXT. I watched her whole career. Yeah. She was there for a couple of years and on TV regularly, and she just never really improved. So when they cut her, I just thought, well, sometimes you just have to cut bait on somebody just not getting any better. And then she was gone for like a year, 18 months, something, for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know if she was still in the business. And then she popped up with Club Venus out of the blue. I'm not sure what's going on with Zaya Brookside, who still seems to be in Club Venus but doesn't go to Japan. Yeah. The thing with Jessie is it's just such a puzzling thing, because I watched a few matches. When she came back, I thought, well, maybe let's see. Maybe she has got the drive and gotten better. And there still seems to be this 1, 2, 3, 4 where she's counting her steps and being, there's nothing smooth about it yet. So, if she's the one that takes the falls, if she's the one that is the person that protects the other members of Club Venus, I understand it a little bit. Of course, she's been winning mostly because she's being introduced. Yes. Could happen here again, but yeah, I feel like there's some sort of malfunction thing, and then maybe Oedo Tai can get the win. But Club Venus is a fascinating group because it's Mina Shirakawa is so good, and Waka's good, Mariah's good, and then there's kind of a steep drop off after that.
Yeah, so what I think is always interesting to bring up with these factions of international talent is that you never really know who's going to be sticking around for a long time and who's going to, have to go back home, because your visa only lasts so long, right? True. And like Far said, welcome to the chat. Far, Jessie's apparently leaving in June, according to her Instagram story from a week ago. I mean, that's 3 months. That's usually how this goes. You get a 3-month visa, you stick around. That's what Zaya Brookside pretty much did.
And 90 days, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mariah May is a different case. She's just I've decided she's here for the long haul, and I think that's a good thing. I think she's the best of the folks that they've brought in so far. Mm-hmm. But Xena, I agree with Benji here. I do see a touch of potential in Xena. There is something there for sure in terms of her in-ring talent. And Mariah seems to be sticking around. Yeah, I mean, I interviewed her for Fightful, and she was very, very adamant that she was going to be around for the long haul, which is very cool here.
Yeah,
we have a lot of comments here. Club Venus has to win this match. Yeah, I'm expecting them to win just because they're the new faction on the block, even with Tekla. But I would like to see this set up Tekla and Mariah May for the SWA title.
See, that might be where it's going, isn't it? It's interesting because you have these foreign people in the SWA title now. Makes a lot more sense than it did during the pandemic when they couldn't bring people in. And you get into this too with if Club Venus, maybe they need to be a large group so they can rotate people in and out too, because of that visa issue you were talking about. Maybe in June, Jesse goes back home and Zaya comes back, and maybe it's a thing where they need a whole bunch of members because those 90-day deals, you can't have everybody all the time forever. So maybe the idea is to rotate them in and out. That could be possible too.
Yeah, so to comment on what Brad said here, Xena looks uncomfortable so far in Club Venus. Yeah, she doesn't have the same charisma that I think, say, Mariah May and Mina have. So I think that's why she's felt awkward. And Velke here says, maybe Xena learns how to emote. The interest is where she pulls into all the charisma around her people as she feels like a black hole. It is interesting, but I do think like the charisma is what she's missing, because in the ring she's a solid worker. I mean, Robbie Eagles trained. She's very athletic. I mean, she has a Australian ninja background. Like it's cool what she has as a background for. It's just there isn't much to grasp onto yet with her, but it will take time.
Yeah, the cupboard's not bare with her at all. That's not what I'm saying, but it's like she does have there can be some bit of awkward, and then she does look awkward with the rest of them, especially during the dance routines, which she doesn't really do. And but she also doesn't. Her character thus far doesn't lean into the sexiness of Club Venus the way Mina does, the way Mariah does. So she kind of, she's kind of the power person there standing next to these two vixens there. So it is kind of it's been awkward, but once she gets in the ring, she's fine. She's not on Mina's level, but very few are.
Yeah, she hasn't had a standout match necessarily yet, but I will agree she did have that good Cinderella match with Mariah, but like they said, like I think Benji said, Mariah does that with most people, so it's
fair enough.
I think Mariah May also, just to finish up here on this, I think she's kind of their next big international talent. Like she's locked into that role now. She's the number 2 in Club Venus moving forward, which is obviously, if you're in a faction as a number 2, that's a big deal. No matter what.
It's a good spot. Yeah, it's a good spot.
I do think hanging around with Mariah will help her out. Mariah's big personality. Yeah, Mariah's personality jumps off the screen.
It really does.
No matter what. And Daniel Garcia is sexier than Xena. Well, he does want to be in Club Venus. So I mean,
Daniel's a good looking dude. Why not? Yeah, that's all right.
We move ahead here. High speed greatness coming our way as Azumi teams up with Mei Saruga to take on Starlight Kid in the returning Mei Sarah, of course, the former Mei Hoshizuki of Marvelous. Listen, folks, there's a lot of great matches on this show. There's a lot of great matches. But if you wanted a match to set the tone, this is the one. This is going to set the tone for the rest of the show and what really Stardom can be so great at. Mei Saruga, if you saw her match with Azumi last year, or you follow her, whether it's AEW, Got to Move, wherever she pops up in a lot of places. She's on the American Indies a lot now. Wherever she may be, if you watch what she does, she is as creative of a wrestler as there is. She does a lot of things that you don't see people do. Again, like I like to reference to, so she wrestles, the Choco Pro matches, and that gives her the ability to kind of use her surroundings to her advantage, and I think that's what makes her very unique. Then Azumi, what can I say about Azumi that hasn't been said? She is the best of the best at this whole high speed thing right now. It's right now, and she will go down as one of the very best in history. That's just the truth. She has established herself as a great. That's why she has all the records right now. That's why she keeps adding to the records. But on the other side, I mean, we have Starlight Kid, someone that obviously major star in Stardom and the eternal foe of Azumi. And then there's, of course, the returning Mayu Suzuki, Mei Sarah, who, for some people, may not know who she is. And a lot of people may not know who she is. If you're only a Stardom fan, if you're only getting into Stardom, if you don't follow Joshi as deeply as I do, she's going to be a whole new person for you. But listen, not only was she a big get for them, she is now going to be the next high-speed champion, is what I fully believe.
Wow.
She is 20 years old. She hasn't wrestled since 2021, but she is Chigusa Nagayo trained. She is Takumi Aroha trained. She is as good as it gets in high speed, I think, already. And I haven't seen her wrestle, right? She hasn't wrestled since 2021, so I don't know where she's at right now. But that's part of the excitement here in this match. She's going to wow a lot of people in time. I'm just interested to see if she goes kind of heelish, seeing she's with Starlight Kid, or if this is just her reintroduction. This is just all high speed. We're not going heel babyface. We're just going to go crazy. I think that's what we're going to have more so of. And everyone should be really excited for her return.
Yeah, Starlight doesn't really work heel that much as a singles anyway, or in tags like this. It's mostly when she's with the whole 8-person tag with Oedo Tai that she really does some heelish tactics. But she and Izumi are soulmates as far as wrestling goes. There are just some combinations that always work. And you and I have talked about this off of this show, where they could wrestle each other. I always said every night and twice on Sunday, I would watch every match between Starlight and Izumi. So put those two in there and then add in these two. And we have what is, for me, I think you said just about it all, but for me, this is the first match that might steal the show.
Yeah. It's a funny thing that we're like, this is the first match that might steal the show. There's a lot of them, folks. Actually, from here on out, pretty much every single one has that claim.
I was just looking at the list right now and go, yeah, the rest of them might too.
Yeah. So what we have here, I'll go through all the comments again. Thank you everyone for jumping in. Like Brad said, Garcia does want to join Vita, so we could trade him. Yeah, I mean, Xena can head to AEW. I was pumping my fist when she came to the stage. Of course, that's talking Mayu Suzuki, Mei Sarah. I will get used to saying Mei Sarah eventually, maybe someday, probably not. Kid has to lose purely for disrespecting the Chocolate Square. Of course, everyone who may forget, this is how the feud started when Starlight Kid showed up to Gato Move's Chocolate Square and was disrespecting it because she wanted Mei Saruga to accept her match. And that is what happened. And of course, we have now led to this tag match. Mei Saruga, who's former tag team partners with Mayu Suzuki, kind of teased that maybe them teaming up just for Starlight Kid to take her partner. And ultimately, we get the little dream team here of Mei Saruga and Azumi, something that they've been wanting to do. So that is cool. I hope this leads to Big Apple, Mei Saruga versus Starlight Kid in the June show. That would be great far. I would not say no to that. And do the non-title matches have time limit draws? Absolutely, they can. That is not something that's crazy. It'll be 15-minute time limits for all non-title matches. I'm pretty sure. I usually are. So I'm just gonna assume they are. Anyways, let's move along here. The retirement match, an emotional one coming our way here, folks, as Hamika has her final match in Stardom as she goes one-on-one with her Mahime tag team partner, her friend, her DDM sister, Micah. You want to talk about matches that might steal the show? If they give these two the whole time limit, they're going to do their damnedest to steal the show.
Yeah, and this breaks my heart because I thought Mahime was one of my favorite tag teams going out there. I loved it. I was hoping that they were going to get a run with the tag titles, and then they lost at the last second, and then we found out a little bit later why, because Hamika had decided to hang it up there. So should be emotional. I'm sure they'll go all out. Of course, they're going to want to have their last match be something special, and a lot of her retirement road matches have been pretty good. So this is another one that really can't miss. And it's going to have that emotional component to it. So I don't want to say I'm looking forward to this match because that would mean I'm looking forward to not seeing Hamika anymore, which isn't true. So I'm part of me dreads this a little bit. I like her. Sad to see her stepping away, but I hope she goes out with a bang and she and Micah really put on a show here. I feel like they will. And she's in with somebody that she has trust in. And of course, and that leads to good things in the ring usually.
Yeah, if we were to go off their 5-star Grand Prix match that they had last year, I feel pretty good about it. They absolutely killed it against each other for the first time ever. And it's interesting. When she announced her retirement, I don't think it hit me as much as it hit a lot of other people. Maybe and it's not because I'm not a fan of Hamika necessarily. It's just like I guess I wasn't as deeply as a fan as her as some other people on the roster, perhaps. But as time has gone on and as her retirement road has gone, you kind of feel I felt those emotions creep in a little bit more, a little bit more. I'm like, God, why does she have to be done? Like she's doing some of the best work right now. Like to me, truthfully, I thought the retirement road started a little slow. Thought she was kind of like not phoning it in, but they were just house shows. So like, why would she, necessarily go to the ultimate limit? But then that match with Giulia happened, and it's like they clicked into another gear, and she's been in that kind of that Maihime run that we see a lot out of her, and that's just going, and it's been great. So Micah's obviously going to win this one. I think you obviously put her over on the way out, but it's going to be an emotional one and another chance to steal the show. We got some comments here. We got tears from far. Everyone's sad. Everyone's sad about Hamika. The Last Dance. Yes, it is The Last Dance. This one's going to be so emotional. I see her putting Mike over. She should.
Yes.
I would be upset if she didn't. Hamika is going to be missed. This match could end up being super hard hitting. Yeah. They're going to leave it all out there. I think that's the ultimate thing. A lot of teary eyes after this match. I'm going to be an absolute mess after this match. I'm going to be a mess when the ALK match gets uploaded. The match is going to kill me. I know. I'm still waiting on that one. Of course, the Cork and Hall show from last Friday. That's a big one. That's going to be just as emotional because that's one of the last times the EM got to share a ring together. So let's and that involves Shuri. We won't, Shuri out of DDM. So that'll be that was 4 of the original 5, which makes it really emotional. But let's move along here. Goddess of Stardom title match.
Yes.
We got Nanae Takahashi and Yu 7-Up defending against the New Eras. And spoiler alert for those who may not want to be spoiled about the Cinderella tournament, Mirai, the back-to-back Cinderella winner, my favorite choice, of course, as I clapped all day long. And Ami Sarai team up the New Eras to try and take the titles from the outsiders here in 7-Up. This is going to be, you want to talk about hard hitting. This is going to be as hard hitting as it gets. And the last time we saw these two teams face off, which was in the tournament, the tag league, Yu and Mirai were not very happy with each other after the match. They were hitting each other hard. They were, Yu like put her hands around Mirai's neck. They were not happy. So I think this is going to be a little bit hard hitting than a lot of the matches. And I think this has a chance to be kind of the surprise of the night because I think this match, out of pretty much all the title matches, is the least anticipated.
Yeah.
But I think based off of 7-Up's resume and really based off of how great Mirai and Ami Sarai have been, I feel pretty good about it.
So Ami is the future of Stardom champion currently, correct?
Yes.
And does that, to you, indicate that this might be a retention here, or do you think that Rossi will go ahead and just put 2 titles on Ami?
I don't think he'd have a problem because the future of Stardom title is like it's a title that kind of matters, but at the same time, it's more like, hey, here's who we're going to believe in the future. And that's so like the future kind of does seem like it's now for Ami Sarai. She hasn't really been like a bottom of the card wrestler necessarily, like a lot of the young rookies and stuff, right? She's already above the likes of a Mai Sakurai and Waka and even Hanan, for example. She beat Hanan for the title. So to me, I think she is above, and I've been going back and forth on this one because this to me isn't the clear-cut one. Mirai ain't getting pinned. For once, Mirai isn't getting pinned.
Yeah, well, that's where I was going with it. You have a champion that you're not going to beat in a way that would set up a title match. You're not going to beat Mirai because you just had her win the Cinderella. But do you go ahead and put the titles on? Perhaps, which is kind of why I'm 55-45 leaning toward new champions here with the new eras, just because it's awkward to beat either one of them in a way, but not impossible.
Sure. I think I'm gonna lean with the new champions here. I think this could be the end of what 7 Up was made to do, and that's eventually put someone over
Yeah.
in the end. And I mean, Mirai and Ami Sarai, I mean, it's not there may not be a better duo to put over. Even if I'm not as super high as on them as a tag team, I think they've been getting better. And I think they're Mariah's destined for gold eventually. This has to be maybe the time that she finally gets it, though. Based off the Cinderella one, I think she's pretty close to getting it one way or the other. We have a lot of comments here, so we'll jump back into them. Before Mariah had won Cinderella, however, she had them. Venji had them winning, but I see 7 Up retaining now. Yeah, see, that's it. It has thrown me for a loop. I think the Cinderella, because the Cinderella could make her seem stronger, or it could make them seem less likely to win. We have the claps, of course. Mirai 2 belts coming. I want to see Mirai win, but with Ami already holding a title, would they do a change? Yep. See, Steven was right on the ball with that one. I think it's possible, but if we're to assume Mirai is also to add a title soon, would they have double champions? They've never been afraid of double champions. I want everyone to remember there was a time that Shuri held 3 titles. She held the tag titles, of course, with Giulia. She held the World of Stardom and the SWA. Of course, she'd give up the SWA and then lose the tag titles after. But she had the SWA and tag titles for a while there. So it's not impossible, but it's definitely something to think about. This will definitely be the loudest match because of Nana. Yeah, you are not wrong, Justin. Ami 2 belts. It's very possible. Waka also made clear she wants Ami's title. Yes, she did. She did. I did see that. She posted this is what I want next. Kind of feels like she could get it. I've really enjoyed the 7 Up reign so far. I don't think I want it to end yet. Yeah, it's been great. It has been great. Here's the question that I've been asking myself, trying to decide who wins this. Who beats them then?
Yeah.
And I don't have a clear answer.
That's the other thing, isn't it? Because if like you said, 7 Up, Outsiders, the reason you put the title on Outsiders is to transfer it to somebody else that's going to be the hometown, so to speak, conquering hero, the Stardom heroes who come and get the belts back. I'm not saying it has to be the new eras, but if it's not, then who? And how long are you going to do this with 7 Up? So it does feel like this is kind of wrapping up. It's time for the belts to come back to a Stardom team. And while there are other teams, there's no doubt there are other teams, you just don't see anybody really positioned in that way quite yet. So it makes sense here. But again, Nene and you do a terrific job. So it could be as simple as we like them with the belts and we'll keep it there. We got other things for Ami and Mirai. So it's really a coin toss.
Yeah, because like I've thought about like if they wanted some form of Club Venus to eventually be tag champs, I'd still think them beating 7 Up wouldn't really connect. I think they would be more likely to beat, say, the New Eras. I think you need I feel like you need a young, built-up tag team to do it. Almost not someone that just came together. I feel like that's kind of the point, unless Meltier comes back into the picture, but Meltier is very busy right now, so I don't know about that one. What else do we got? We have, and then Mirai still has her title match in the tournament in her back pocket. Yeah, that'll probably be happening at Flashing Champions, which I believe is in June, like it did last year. So we'll have to wait and see. Ami and Mirai double champs. This is kind of the least interesting match for me, but Mirai and Nanai hard hitting will be fun. Yeah, this out of like the top 6 or 7. This is definitely, I think, the least for everyone, but that's why I think it can definitely over deliver for a lot of people, because it is kind of the quiet, it's here. It should be good, but it's not the standouts like the rest. If it's not them, it's Aphrodite. Yes, of course. If Saya Kamatani loses her title, Utami and Saya getting the titles here would not be all that shocking. That was the final, of course, of the Goddess of Stardom tournament, and I want Meltier to get revenge on them, but it's got to be tough. It's already red belt and trios champion. Oh, okay. You have already put the belts on Tam and Poi. All right.
There's a lot of booking there. A lot of booking in one message.
Speaking of which, let's get to the big one. We have the trios title match, the Artists of Stardom title match here. This is as good as it gets, folks. I don't think you could ask for a better trios title match. You have Risa Sera, Suzuki, and Kurumi Haragi of Prominence defending against Restart, Saori Anu, Natsupoi, and Kairi. Man, I just saying it out loud gets me amped up because Kairi and Suzuki in the same ring at the same time is something I could have never dreamt of. Just because, like, I don't know, Kairi's been pretty focused, obviously, on the in roster talent, right? She, Utami, Saya, Mayu, Tam, like everyone that's big stars on the roster. Now she's gonna hit maybe the biggest outside star who keeps coming in, and that is Suzu, just based off how they booked her. And you add Saori Anu to the picture, someone who has obviously made a big name for herself in the indies as a freelance star, kind of the freelance star alongside Asuka Veni. Those two have really been the main two for a long time. And you added Natsupoi to the mix, and it's have yourselves a trio. I would be shocked if the titles didn't change hands. I think
who loses? Who on Restart loses? It just doesn't make sense.
I guess Natsupoi can, but like after everything that's happened, and the only reason they could lose is because Kairi is not part of Cosmic Angels, like the other two now are. That's the only like idea, and if they want to continue the dominance of Prominence, that's also. I mean, they've already established Prominence in more ways than I ever expected. That goes without saying. You and me have talked about that. They not only have had them become the Arts of Stardom champions, they had them win the trios tournaments as champions. You don't see that happen all that much. So,
but that almost speaks to me more for a title change here, because you don't need to make Prominence anymore. They're over. It's done. Like the job is done. They could lose this match and still be in a Prominence on the next show, and no one would blink twice, saying, "Well, they lost. Doesn't matter anymore." They are threats against anyone in any situation. They've been made. So I think they did their job with Prominence. Now it's time to kind of do something with this Restart team. Prominence you can bring back for big shows, and they don't need the belts to be a draw. They don't need a belt to be a special attraction. Mission accomplished in that way. Therefore, let's put the belts on someone who would benefit from them, and I think that's probably what we're going to see.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think when it comes to with Kairi involved, it makes it more likely, I think. And I think the one thing that's interesting, right, is like we have the aspect here where we have this new Cosmic Angels top trio, and it is Tam, Saori, and Natsupoi. They could always wait off for that, but I feel like if that were the plan, they wouldn't have booked this match. Like if that were the plan, they wouldn't have gave them this first shot with Kairi of all people, and then be like, "Oh, Kairi wasn't good enough. Let's go to Tam." Like, do you hear what I'm saying for people? That's kind of insane. So I do think new champions, and I think deserving champions. Obviously, it will mean more Kairi, which is all we asked for. More Kairi means we win. Kairi, of course. I don't think I'll talk about this on the show later this week, but she was announced for Kenta Kobashi's Fortune Dream 8, which is very cool. Be her first match outside of Stardom since returning to wrestling. Last year we did have Stardom on that show. It was Hamika versus Lady C, so it's not too crazy to see Stardom talent on that show by any means, but I'm looking forward to seeing that one. But we're both picking new champions here. Let's head back to the comments. We have I'm so excited to see Poi and Suzu go at it. Yeah, they're gonna cook. You are absolutely right. Venji, as much as I hate Prominence losing, I don't see Saori Anu losing her debut. Yeah, this is her re-debut. It's hard to imagine they'd have her lose. Again, poor Natsupoi is like the odd woman out here, which is funny because she's the only member in this entire match that is full-time with Stardom. But hey, that's how it goes. I don't know who to pick from far. Yeah, it's not easy, but it is and it isn't, because like I think everyone just loves both of these trios so much, and the idea of both of these trios being champions, so it makes it a lot of fun. Poi is getting pinned, isn't she? I don't. If they lose, yes.
Yes, yeah.
It's too bad we probably won't get to hear Baby Metal for Sarah's entrance, and entrance is star-studded and should be amazing. Yeah, we won't. But you know what? We will hear Kyrie. We'll get Kyrie's whole entrance. Kyrie's whole entrance is like a scene from a movie. So
She uses Baby Metal on the Indies as her entrance right there.
Yeah, she does.
That'd be great.
Use this as a way to get Kyrie and Cosmic Angels. Yeah, I don't think Kyrie will be doing the Angels dance anytime soon. Tim was agreeing with that. Everyone wants Kyrie and the Cosmic Angels. What is happening? My brain tells me Sayori is pinning Suzu. Yeah, that's kind of the story they mapped out because, of course, these two have a previous relationship. Kyrie joining Cosmic Angels and changing the group's name to Cosmic Voyage would be cool. Oh, shit. I mean, that's probably not going to happen, but I like the name.
Cosmic Voyage is a good name. Yeah, we're on board with the name.
Everyone and Velcase cheering against the Cosmic Angels wants Poi to get pinned. Well, if they lose, Poi will indeed get pinned. So there you go. We'll move forward here. Now we get to the big singles matches. Starting off with
what a snoozer.
Oh, I know. The card slows down now, folks. We go from the big trios match to Shuri versus Chihiro Hashimoto. Winner by knockout, submission, or referee stoppage. So this is gonna be a fight. This isn't a match, folks. This is a fight. Shuri, of course, showed up at the Sendai Girls show this past weekend, dumped beer on Chihiro Hashimoto's head, and kissed her, because that is how Shuri gets in the head of people. She did that to Utami too when they had their big match back at not the beer part. The beer part was a whole unique situation for Hashimoto. But in the end, these two are going to go to war. You have two of the very best. You have Shuri, who for the better part of the past two years, I'll say, been the best women's wrestler in the world, almost unquestionably. And you have Chihiro Hashimoto, who is one of the very best outside of Stardom, multi-time Sendai Girls World Champion. And as we've seen against Mirai and Hamika, an absolute force to be reckoned with. I would be shocked if Shuri lost, like genuinely shocked, because I think not only is Shuri going to win, I think, when they set this match up, immediately after she lost the title, mind you, they set this match up. Like, she went to that press conference, she's like, I want to face Chihiro Hashimoto. And I remember being like, what? Excuse me, come again? What? Why? What happened? What did I miss?
So why do you want to do this to yourself?
Yeah, and I said since she lost that title that I think Shuri will be the Dominion challenger because she presents not only is she known to kind of the world now after her big matches with Tommy and the PWI #1 and all that. She is as good a wrestler that's going to connect with the New Japan audience as any. That is what Shuri's all about. So I think Shuri wins here, goes on, continues her run, and then I think she'll be that IWGP Women's Title challenger at Dominion.
It's a good point, and I think you've nailed it here, because the one thing that this show needs is a challenger coming out of it. We're about to get into 3 major title matches, and we have an idea of that Wonder of Stardom thing, but the World of Stardom, the IWGP, all that, we need somebody standing tall that works for Stardom coming out of this thing that looks strong and can be built up as a challenger for either of those belts. And this feels like the place for Shuri to win a war and therefore look like she's ready to regain a title. And that's just the kind of thing they need going into Dominion, going into whatever the next pay-per-view will be for Stardom. And so it's healthy to have that match where someone just wins a great big fight and then comes out of it, battered and beaten a little bit, but afterwards feeling strong and feeling like, okay, now I'm ready to challenge for a championship. Get that atmosphere going. It feels like that match.
Yeah, unlike Utami, Shuri's getting right back on the horse after losing the title in a lot of ways. She's climbing back to that big top spot. Shuri eventually being IWGP Women's Champion, by the way, would not shock me whatsoever. She's as legit as they come, obviously, former UFC fighter, and again, one of the more over wrestlers worldwide. So let's see what we got here. But hear me out. Unagi is also on Dream Fortune. Unagi assessing Kairi for Coast. I forgot she was on that. She's on the Kenta Kobashi show. I did not. Oh, interesting. We have let's go. Best match on the card, says Far. There's a lot of good matches.
Could be.
My sleeper hit of the card. I've been stoked for this. Big Hash, let's fucking go. I feel sorry for Shuri's neck in this one. Yeah,
we all do. We all do. Justin, pray for him. Yeah, this is again, wrestling is at its best when it's a variety show, and this match is going to look and feel different than everything else on this card, which is healthy for the show too.
Yeah, it's a perfect middle point. It's still one of the best images of the year of Shuri challenging Big Hash while Mariah laid on the floor lifeless after she lost to Big Hash. And Brad, this has Suzuki versus Ishii vibes for him. It's going to be hard hitting. That's my best way to sell you on this match. I think, truthfully, like Shuri more mirrors like a Shibata type style. If we're making New Japan references. And then Hashimoto as a Ishii or like Suzuki definitely fits for sure. I think that's kind of if it's anything like Shibata and Ishii, oh boy. But let's move on here. This is the one. This is the one, folks. This is for me. This is the biggest match that I'll ever get to watch. This is the one. This is my favorite wrestler of all time, facing someone who I think is the best women's North American wrestler of all time. My personal opinion, you could disagree with me all you want, but I think that's what Mercedes Moné has established herself as. And the more she does this run, the more she's going to prove her point, I think, of how great she truly is.
Trying to think of a North American wrestler that would be above Monet, and I'm not coming up with a North American one either. So yeah, and Mayu Iwatani, of course, is the ultimate Stardom icon. So I've been saying a long time that this is the biggest match that they could really make as far as just a major foreign star against the big symbol of the company. Now, who wins this is where you have to do the cop out. It depends. What does it depend on? Well, it depends on if Mercedes is sticking around, isn't it? And so if she's not, I would love for her to. I feel like chances of her sticking around are better than they were, say, 2 nights before WrestleMania, before Vince McMahon, the person she walked out on, muscled himself back into that seat. So I think WWE is a more remote possibility than not impossible, because they can always write a check that'll make you forget a lot of things. But I think it's less likely than before. So I feel like there's a better chance Monet is staying, but it all depends on that. If she's leaving, then they have to put this thing on Iwatani and move on. And that's the classic thing in Japanese wrestling history, isn't it, though, Scott? That the foreign star comes in, takes the title, rampages for a while before the Japanese hero takes it back. That story's been told 100 times in All Japan, New Japan, IWE, all the way through All Japan Women. And it's a trope of Japanese wrestling. And so it could be that here if Monet is being vanquished, so to speak. If Monet is staying, then she can retain here, have a fantastic match, and be set up for Shuri. And I don't think anyone would complain. Mayu's a made woman. She could lose Mercedes Monet. It doesn't hurt her a bit. Again, a coin flip that all depends more on what's happening in the front office than what's happening out in front of the crowd as far as who wins.
So this is kind of the way I look at it. And this is going to be a lot of fandom and a lot of bias coming into this too. I'm not going to lie to you folks.
Okay.
But I watched Mayu Iwatani lose to Kairi in heartbreaking fashion, a historic crossover. Truly killed me inside in every single way, shape, or form. But when Mercedes Moné walked in the door, I actually was happy that she lost, because her reign wasn't going to get cut short.
Yeah.
Fast forward to this match. You have the best of the East versus the best of the West. You have icon versus icon, just like Far said. This is a true dream match. I wrote a big article about this on Voices of Wrestling. You go check it out. I said specifically, we use the dream match term a lot. Not everything's a dream match. This is the definition of a dream match, because 1 year ago today, this probably wasn't likely at all. Mercedes Moné, from our knowledge, was very much still contracted to WWE. She had just walked out. And I will tell you for a second, not a single person, I think, really expected her to fully leave
right
when she walked out. Because she's done it before, and she stayed. right? Usually things come around. Then Triple H took over, and that became more likely. We thought she was going to stay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anytime someone's in WWE, you don't really expect them to stay, especially take a chance in Japan, of all places. If anything, you maybe think, oh, she'll go to AEW, something like that, if she continues wrestling. And not only has she taken the chance, she has become pretty much everything I think a lot of us thought of Mercedes Moné / Sasha Banks, and that is a absolutely major star. They have built this match exactly like Bayley versus Sasha Banks.
Mm-hmm.
Never in my life did I think that would be where they would go, just because I didn't know how much build they would get from the match. And the fact that they are makes this that much better to me, because Bayley versus Sasha Banks, to me, that is the rivalry of women's wrestling in the US, at least over the past 20 decade. I'll say decade. I know Trish and Lee is a big one, of course, and Awesome Kong, Gail Kim. I want to give
Trish and Lita has been built up in now more than it was then. Let's just say that too. By the way, that's a little bit of WWE revisionist history as to how great that was.
I don't necessarily love their matches, but that being said, I wanted to give them credit. Gail Kim and Awesome Kong, obviously, and TNA was a big one, but Bayley and Sasha, to me, that's kind of the standard in the kind of women's wrestling being not revolutionized. It was not revolutionized. Revamped in the US, right? Or really in wrestling. So to me, going down that road has been great, because I love Bayley. Love Bayley. If Bayley ever stepped into a Stardom ring, I'd be so happy. She's a Mayu Iwatani. And I think the biggest realization I had when thinking about this match is that you have the biggest US women's star who helped revamp or push forward women's wrestling in the US on this card. That is never something I would have expected when you say, yeah, not only do you have one of the 4 horsewomen on this card, I think for a lot of us, you have the 4 horsewomen on this card. You have the Mandalorian star. You have someone that just, again, unimaginably would not have been here a year ago. And now she's on this card, wrestling Mayu Iwatani. I don't care if it's the main event. I don't care if it's the first match. They're going to get the time. They're going to kill it. It's going to be fantastic. It's my one true dream match. I said once upon a time on Twitter, if I ever get it, I'm retiring. You'll never see me again. Maybe I'll hold up to that. We'll see. It depends how I feel after the match. If Mayu wins, maybe that's true. That being said, we all win. It almost doesn't matter who wins, but at the same time, to me, it matters who wins. But that's because I want Mayu to have her moment. But if Mercedes Moné sticks around, she's winning. That being said, I think Mercedes Moné can stick around even if she loses. I have had this thought in my head for a long time. She wants the match with Miyu Yamashita. She very much wants that match with Miyu Yamashita. We've seen her train in the TJPW dojos while in Japan. Literally on this trip, she's been to the TJPW dojos. So, if she wants to leave, go get that match, then maybe sign back for more matches here, I think that's believable. Because if she does that, I don't think New Japan, I don't think Bushiroad's gonna be like, oh well, you went there for a match, no, we don't want you anymore. Not gonna happen. Yeah. She's too big of a star to say no to.
This could be worked out even if she stays with the contracted to Bushiroad. Bushiroad is less adamant about that type of thing, and we've seen New Japan guys. I mean, hey, Shingo Takagi wrestled for went to Dragon's Gate this past year.
That's a good point.
And he wasn't between contracts or out of contract, and he's a former world heavyweight champion. So I think stuff like that can definitely be worked out, even if she stays and is always contracted to Bushiroad while she's in Japan. So none of that's off the table. And the question is, I mean, does she challenge for? Does she? She could also challenge for the red belt eventually. I think she's still more New Japan than she is Stardom. So that's why I still see this being all depending on her contract situation. So yeah, it's going to be a fantastic match either way. Yeah.
She fits right in. I will say the rivalry is more between Stardom and TJPW, but she's a Bushiroad contract more than anything. And I think you're right. I think they would happily, hey, we'll agree to a deal. You can go wrestle the few matches you want. and come back. And I think that's definitely something you would do because again,
worth it to keep her happy.
Absolutely. Let's go through all the comments here. I talked long enough. Best show of the year, hopefully a bit late to this one, The Flaming Shark. Thank you. But I mainly watched Speaking of Strong Style, of course, Steven's show. Thank you. And this triple man is insane. So much hype. Veggie, I've been calling for Mayu to win this since it got announced. I need that big Mayu win, especially after the lost Kyrie. Listen, I've been calling for the Mayu win since she lost to Kyrie, okay? I didn't even really give a shit who she was facing. It happens to be Mercedes, which I never imagined. Yeah, I'm with you. Mercedes punked out Mayu multiple. I want the Icon to win. Yeah, no, you're not. So that has kind of been the feud, right? With that's why it's the Bailey like thing. 3 times she's gotten the best of Mayu. Make Mayu the ultimate underdog, which that's her best role. Will they take advantage of that, or will Mercedes be signed on the dotted line and keep going? That's really what it comes down to. But that's what makes it so good. We don't know who's winning. Yeah. That's what makes wrestling really cool, folks, when you don't know who's winning. That story about the foreigners, how Japanese wrestling started. Yep, exactly. I think Iwatani is the third IWGP champion either way. You're probably right. I mean, they could always have Mercedes win and continue on, maybe do it somewhere down the line. But I will say this is their biggest show ever. Yeah. And a lot of times, if your biggest show ever, you put over your talent. Just remember that. We had Jeremy here. Jeremy joining, of course. Steven's co-host.
I'm cheating on Jeremy today, and he's hurt. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Jeremy. I'll come back tomorrow.
I already played that one. I would be surprised to see Monet lose the title before facing off with Giulia eventually, unless of course they want it to be for the red belt. So let me talk about this, because I think everyone instantly points to like Giulia being the one to face every person ever. I've noticed it's just what we do. It's natural.
But she's having her year, so that's she's on everybody's mind.
Here's the thing with Giulia: they can have her do any of these matches, and they probably will. But they also have Utami. They have a lot of people for Mercedes. They can do these matches without the title. Like there's no law that says you can't bring Mercedes Moné in for a special singles match and put her against anyone, because it writes itself. You don't need a title when it's Mercedes Moné. That's how big of a star she is. But I get your point. The Giulia match will hopefully happen, but you never really know. Even if Mercedes is sticking around, I can still see Mayu winning. They can always do the trilogy ending at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yep, very true.
I wouldn't say no, but needs more than 5 minutes. This match is going to slap harder than Monet's right hand. Oh my God! Someone should teach her that you don't have to hit that hard. I think the coolest thing that could happen is Mayu wins, and then Mercedes still sticks around and Stardom New Japan does God knows what, but that's definitely less likely than the other two options. I don't think it is less likely, because if she's not signed now, but she's signed at a later date, there you go. Your session happened, and you're right. I think that's very likely too. I don't know. Next month Mercedes starts up a faction. No, that's a game changer. If she starts up a faction, she ain't going anywhere. I really want Mercedes in the 5-star. Oh my God!
Don't hold your breath.
If that happened,
don't hold your breath.
If she was in the 5-star, by the way, she'd be winning the 5-star. I want everyone to know that.
Boy, would that be expensive.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's possible she becomes a bit more consistent in Japan after these 3 matches were her testing waters, and she seems to love it. Yeah, I think she got a taste, and now she's ready to go.
She's a wrestling nerd. I mean, that's real. That whole wrestling nerd thing is real. And she got into wrestling wanting to be Eddie DeGuerrero, not the Fabulous Moolah. Like she and Eddie was, of course, the second Black Tiger in Japan. She knows all that. So she is a wrestling nerd. And so all this means things to her more than a paycheck. The idea of being in Japan, being at Wrestle Kingdom, working for the #1 women's company, that matters to Monet in a way beyond just picking up a nice paycheck, which he's also doing. But yeah, it's a fair point. This, if you can offer her things that means something to her, like, big matches in big Japanese arenas where she watched her heroes wrestle, she'll listen.
Yeah. I think a lot of people forget how much of a nerd she is in a good way.
Yeah.
I mean, you listen to like her interviews, say with Stone Cold on the on the network, Peacock, whatever, wherever you live. It's one of the two. She talks about all of this and how much she loves old wrestling, stuff like that. Like I always said, like if she wants it, she's going to do it because it's something she grew up on. She always said she wanted to go to Japan. My belief is guys at the Forbidden Door will involve Mercedes and Yamashita. I mean, I wouldn't be upset. I wouldn't be upset if that was the chase. We'll keep Monet contracted. So Forbidden Door. I don't know how much I'll talk about this until something's announced. But my belief for that has been IWGP Women's Champion or Kairi on that show, one way or the other. And if it's a AEW challenger, you would probably think like Toni Storm or something because of the connection with Stardom, unless it's Kairi challenging Jamie Hayter. But for the IWGP, Toni Storm probably makes the most sense. We have Kenny, can't wait for the next Stardom pay-per-view. I think Mercedes still wins. Why is everyone breaking my heart? Japanese Joshi's always so much better than the Western woman. Well, you know.
Less so than before. There's some good stuff out here, but yeah, you're not wrong.
Tommy's go. I love Giulia, but Shuri, Tommy, and Mo exist as dream opponents beyond just Mayu and Giulia. We all want Giulia Mercedes, though. Anyways, everyone wants Giulia. Everyone loves Giulia. That is ultimately what you sound like you really want.
I'll say this as somebody that just started watching Stardom consistently. Like I said, I kept track of Stardom, but as far as watching show by show, since the 5-star Grand Prix last year, Giulia feels like the biggest star in the company. And I know Shuri is. I understand that Shuri is great. I understand that Shuri has been the number one person for a long time. But since then, there is something about Giulia, and since she won the red belt, to me anyway, as somebody that's relatively new, I feel like that's if you put them all up on the stage, she's the biggest star to me.
Sure.
So I understand where these sentiments are coming from.
Naya Adam, you sound like you really want Maya to win. She's my favorite wrestler of all time. Yeah, I want her to win. And Justin, I think the Giulia thing is more so because she's probably their most international marketable star other than Kairi herself. Now you say that, but I remember this conversation when Utami was World of Stardom champion. So that is my only contention. That being said, they're both unbelievable. So listen, it's gonna happen. Giulia will get more spots, but she's the world champion right now. Let's not. We need to move on to the next match. I think I expected that to be the longest conversation. It was, but let's get to it. Saya Kamatani versus Amina Shirakawa. No offense to them, they're kind of in the death spot here. They obviously have a story. They have the history, right? Saya messes up the Phoenix Splash, pretty much breaks Mina's face. Mina cuts that unbelievable promo post-match.
And a broken face.
And since then, it's been, well, Mina's got to be champion. Mina's got to be champion. That's been what a lot of people are saying. I haven't, but that's besides the point. That being said, we move forward here. Looking at both sides of this conversation, there is reason to believe for me, especially after the Cinderella result, that this can now go either way. Up until the Cinderella ended, I said to myself, well, Mina's winning. Mina's winning. Now, it's not as clear-cut, I think, as it once was. Because Mirai is destined to win a title. You don't go back-to-back Cinderellas and just, fall into the shadows and never be heard from again. That doesn't happen. You know why? The only other person to win back-to-back Cinderellas, 2 Cinderellas, that person, of course, is Mayu Iwatani. This isn't just a thing they give out. That being said, I think Mina can win and Mirai can still win as well because I don't think Mina needs the long title reign. I don't think she should have the long title reign. But I'm okay completing the story or finishing the story. Cody Rhodes. If that's what it takes. But I've seen people say this as well. What if the story is now Saya Kamatani getting her confidence back instead and hitting the Phoenix Splash, something she hasn't hit since that match? That's an interesting little tweak there to think about. But Steven, what say you as I head over here? We have so many comments. Love to see it.
People are really excited about this show, aren't they? It shows in the comments how fired up people are. My thoughts on this one are very basic, Scott. Maybe I'm being a little simplistic here. Mina Shirakawa just broke away from Cosmic Angels. She just formed her own group, and I don't see them cutting off her legs right after forming her own group. And I just see them.
Yeah.
I just see them putting her over here and just saying, here is Club Venus. Here is this new. We are no longer Cosmic Angels. We have Waka now along with us. We have a defector along with the people I brought in. And now I'm the champion. And I think it just kind of cuts their legs off a little bit if she stumbles here at the finish line. So I do see that. But I also agree totally that Mirai is the one that ends up taking it from her. And it's not going to take all the way until December to do it. There's ways to handle that. And there are ways that you can get other people in Club Venus. An SWA title could be in Club Venus down the road. There's ways they can handle that. But after having her face broken, after forming her own faction, this is the rise. And I feel like it's going to be a win for Mina.
Yeah, so we have a lot of comments here. Let me go through them. We'll catch up to this match. We're still back at the Mayu and Mercedes stuff. Mayu has connection with ROH, of course, former ROH Woman of Honor champion. So we're winning the IWGP belt coming over for the door. That would definitely be cool. I don't know if that happens. Obviously, we don't know. I don't think the Athena thing would happen unless Athena loses the belt. Necessarily just because they're both champions. I think if Mayu were to come over, she'd come over for the one shot. I will say, this is worth noting, Forbidden Door is the same day as a Stardom pay-per-view. Stardom announced that they will have a pay-per-view that day, the same as last year. So they can easily send one person or two people over, likely one, but usually they like the wrestlers to not travel alone, so they send more than one. So that'd be interesting. Yep, you don't want them to travel alone, so that's interesting. But yeah, I mean, if the IWGP champion feels like an obvious person for Forbidden Door, but we'll have to wait and see. Brad agrees with you on Giulia. Yeah, Giulia's phenomenal. I have to go back and say I wasn't saying Giulia's bad or anything. It's just like I'm just saying there's more people for the dream matches.
Sure.
I remember the same conversation with Utami when she was champion.
She's a hot ticket. She's a hot ticket right now. And I'll tell you one other thing about Forbidden Door, Scott, that another factor is Tony Khan is a promoter on Forbidden Door, and he is going to want Mercedes. I don't know if he's going to get her, but boy, that's a nice little FU to Paul. And so he's going to want that. We'll see if
he's had a hell of a swing and a miss at getting her so far.
You're right. And it's not for lack of trying, but it's a curious factor. It makes me think that maybe it's not going to be Monet at Forbidden Door, just because that's a line she has yet to cross. How about that?
Yeah, we got Mayu's thank you.
Yeah,
you're right here. Thank you. So I'm happy you're biased with me. I appreciate it. I think Mayu's a log for the third IWGP champ, whether it's next Sunday, months from now, Wrestle Kingdom. Yeah, you're probably right. We'll get to Tam and Giulia second anyways. Oh, that's beside. We have I'm trying to catch up. Mina kicks her ass for Seat City. I mean, it's gonna be emotional. Same with the Gospels for Cinderella. I had Mina winning. Now I see Mirai dethroning Kamitani, not Mina. This story is so convoluted, screwed up. Mina can't win with how she's been booked. So I think the Mina conversation is interesting. Obviously, because Mina obviously was this big baby face when she left. And then she came back, brought Mariah May, Brookside, a little heelish, definitely a little heelish. Not full heel, but a little heelish. And then, of course, we see her now leave Cosmic Angels to form her own faction. That being said, I like to remind people, Rossy Ogawa doesn't tend to break away from his plans, okay? Like, he has plans, he does them. That is how it goes. And this Club Venus aspect was probably planned for a long time. It's not like Mina got her and they're like, oh, you know what? Let's give her a faction. This was probably the plan the whole time. And she cut that great promo off the cuff, it seems. I don't think that was like, because people remember, it wasn't planned she was going to get her face broken.
Right.
Like that wasn't part of the plan. If she had lost and her face was fine, I don't think this match may even be happening, truthfully. I'm going to be honest. But he does break away from plans from time to time, and I think that's why we may be seeing her walk away with the victory here. Because let me tell you, if you told me Mina Shirakawa had a record-long reign at the beginning of her reign, and Mina Shirakawa was going to be the one to break it, I would have laughed in your face. Okay? Like, I would have been like, there's no way Mina's going to be champion. Things change, right? Does Saya break out the Phoenix Splash here? I think that's going to be the story of the match. She's going to at least tease it.
I think she's going to try it. Yeah. It's the biggest show they've ever had. She's going to bring out everything.
Yeah. We have Justin, Let's Go Mina. I feel like she has quite a connection with the crowd overseas at least, but I could see Japanese audience still wanting Saya to rotate. Her and Club Venus, they're going to be a big part of this international part that New Japan not New Japan. New Japan doesn't want to do it. Bushiroad wants to do it. As we saw when they did the Rumble on 44th Street, we had Mina and Waka go over there. Obviously, they'll probably make their way back over again somewhere down the line. So I think you're right. My heart hurts knowing Mina or Mirai winning it before Micah and Hazuki. Well, Pedro, I'm okay with Mirai winning it because I love Mirai. Listen, the Hazuki one, it hurts because Hazuki's been wanting this damn title forever. It's gonna come now. Like, I'm fully convinced it's going to happen eventually. It's just a matter of when. Micah, I still don't know yet. I still don't know if she's Hiroki Goto or Sonata. Take that for what you will. I do think the story is that's hitting the Phoenix Splash again, not Mina winning. Yeah, it's possible. Maybe Mina could be a transitional champion that Mirai beats, because then it could be just to build Mina's story as well, journey as well. I think, like Steven said, I think that's very possible. If Mina were to win, I think this all roads lead to Mirai. Truthfully, it's just a matter of which one's champion. All right.
Well, we'll move on from that one.
This is the sleeper match without a shadow of doubt. I'm sure Mina is a very nice person, but I can't get excited about her winning. Just imagine if Saya hits the move and Mina kicks out, or foot on the rope. That's always possible, right? You could kind of play the kind of like, remember when Kenny hit the One Wing Angel and Okada got his foot on the rope? I'm not saying, but the Phoenix Splash is very protected, is my point. So you could play up that. Even though I myself will fully admit, along with everyone else, was sleeping on a bit. I'm so gassed for the red belt and IWGP belt matches. Yeah, that's the thing with this match.
By the way, I think the thing with the Phoenix Splash, for me, my guess is that it's more likely she goes ahead, sucks it up, and tries it, and makes a big deal out of trying it. We can see the emotion on her face and the decision and all that, and she tries it and misses it. And then it goes to the finish from there. That I think is probably where it's going. So I think you get both there, where she doesn't quite hit it, but she does it.
Mina was supposed to have the big babyface comeback from injury, but then she just went heel on Unagi and Tam, so her redemption arc is kind of ruined anyways. Well, I think the Unagi thing was always going to happen. Unagi's not in the company anymore. She's not with the company anymore. So I think it was always going to happen. See, this has been botched since her promo. There's so many comments. It's also possible if Mercedes wants to eventually go back to WWE, or at least keep WWE in good standing, maybe she ends up staying away from Forbidden Door, which could lead into Mayu winning. I mean, listen, with the big old grumpy guy there, I don't think that being Vince, I think things have changed in her possible return there.
It's less likely. They would need a lot of money to make her forget that. I mean, she walked out because she was tired of him.
Yeah. If anything, missing her the splash or Shirakawa getting the knees up is probably part of the finish. Mina's winning the white belt for sure. And I think Cosmic Angels versus Club BS will be feud going forward. I see Saya King. Very possible as well. But let's get to the main event, huh? It's time for the main event, as Mark Henry says. We have World of Stardom Championship match. As Steven said, this is the most hyped match for him. And for a lot of people going to the show, and that is not a disrespect to anything else. It is a credit to how they've built this match. I'll be honest, folks. When Dave Meltzer reported this was the plan, and when it became apparent this was going to be the plan, I said to myself, why are we doing this again? We've done this so many times. Why are we doing this again? We're doing this again because, folks, this is their biggest rivalry. That's why we're doing it again. This has been their biggest, we could say Shuri and Tommy, of course, but this is nationally pretty much their biggest rivalry. Tam Nakano is, as I like to call her, Stardom's Naito in terms of popularity. No matter what, she doesn't have to have a belt. She's always one of, if not the most popular wrestlers on the roster. And Giulia is Giulia. We've been saying it this whole time, right? We've been talking about, the comments have been telling me Giulia is Giulia. Well, you're right. She is Giulia, and this is their biggest feud. And the way they've built this match has been perfection.
It's been very, very special. And you saw the whole thing with Tam. Both there were a couple of parts of that. The Tam cutting off her hair was a surprising thing. I was sitting there with my girlfriend who doesn't follow things day to day, but she was just like, "Oh my god!" When she hacked that chunk of her hair off. And I just said, and I explained the hair match that they'd had in the past and things. She's like, "Wow," but she wasn't expecting that. And then Tam cut a very emotional backstage promo that was terrific, talking about how I beat you. You had to shave your head, and I still just hear your name, your name, your name. And it was just it was terrific. And then it led up to Giulia, getting juice on her at the press conference. So I'm all in for this. And these are two great workers. Like I said earlier, they're going to beat the living hell out of each other. I've mentioned, and so have you, that Giulia is like an Akira Okudo if we want to go back to like the All Japan Women's heyday. We talked about the last time these Dream Slam cards came up, and Hokuto was always a big part of those. But somebody who has that gravitas, she can have good wrestling matches, but also get into just a good fight and take and give and bleed. I wouldn't be surprised at all if there were juice in this match. And the thing with those two, it's going to be terrific. It's their top rivalry. It's two great workers, and I feel like this will probably, coming out of it, be the best match. If I had to put money on one out of 7 or 8 matches that might steal the show, it might be that we end up talking about the main event after this one, because these two are wonderful. I have no idea who wins this thing too. This is the first time I felt like Giulia's title reign is threatened. And the other ones I felt like, well, she's going to win this. She's going to retain. She's going to retain.
Sure.
And this time I'm not as sure. And so I'm going to be watching every second of this with bated breath. I'm all in. I can't say enough about how well they built this match.
Yeah, this seems like this is the first time in a long time that I think we have a legitimate title match so early in a reign, a World of Stardom title reign specifically, that it feels like it can end this early. It's because Tam Nakano, obviously her final dream per se is to win that world title. Who knows, this could be her last shot. We also know that Giulia, for example, she is everything that they've wanted her to be in the end. She's been handpicked as world champion by everyone since the moment she walked into the company. It's a matter of where do they go with this, right? We saw this as the 5-star Grand Prix final last year, and obviously that was tremendous. We've seen it as the Nippon Budokan main event in 2021. Now Yokohama Arena, they do it again. Where do they go? What are their limits this time around, right? Well, I'm not even going to ask, will there be blood? There should be, based off what they've done so far. I think the reason we have all white hair Giulia is because there will be blood. You play to that, right?
Sure. Absolutely.
And I have these quotes that I want to, from my previous interviews with both of them, talking about each other, and I think this is kind of a fun thing to go about. So on the left is what Giulia, I believe, said about Tam, and Tam is a rival who eventually gave everything she had to beat Giulia. It meant a lot to me that I went up against these two in one day, talking Suzuki, but I believe that I can put on a classic match with Suzu, and I also expect to have another blazing emotional match with Tam Nakano in the future. Well, here we go. We got that match in the future, did we not? Discussing Tam Nakano and her rivalry, she said, she and I have opposite personalities to the point where our emotions run high just by looking at each other. Everything she does is the opposite of me. The way she produces herself, her stance in practice, the way she treats the members as a unit leader, the way she trains the younger members, everything really. Yeah, how'd that work out, Tam? As you lost half your faction. But because we are complete opposites, we were able to express our dislike of each other without hiding anything, and it's easy for those around us to recognize that we were rivals, which I think was the reason why my rivalry with her was such a big hit in Stardom. If there's one thing that she and I have in common, it is that we are honest about our feelings. And if the fans enjoy the show, I don't mind if they think I'm a jerk. I think she is popular because she's a type that is rare among Japanese girls. Many Japanese women think it's more important to hide their true feelings and be liked by everyone than to be honest with themselves. And then if Tam talking about Giulia, it's no exaggeration to say that my days of fighting with Giulia are the biggest in Tam's wrestling life. Because of Giulia, Tam is the person she is today. The days when I fought with Giulia, my face was always swollen and I was always frustrated and in a lot of pain, but those days made me stronger. Lately, I've started to miss those brain shaking, stimulating slaps a little. I think Giulia does too, don't you? So we know how much they want this match again. Yeah, the Tam interview, of course, was before their 5-star final. The Giulia one was after, but the facts remain the same. They know how much they mean to each other's careers. They also want to have the best match, right? Everyone's going to be talking about Mercedes Moné and Mayu Iwatani heading into this show. That's just the facts. Worldwide, that is just the facts because Mercedes Moné exists. They know where they need to go. They know what they can do. If you're looking for a match of the year contender from the show, you have 2 of them at least, possibly. But this one, I think, even more than the dream match, has a chance to be that special. We'll wait and see, but they've worked with each other, right? Mercedes and Mayu haven't. Some could see that as a weakness to this match because we've seen it so many times. I see it as a positive because they can go one more level. How do you go a higher level than hair versus hair, Steven? You do whatever these two have done so far.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It just takes it to they are going to take it to another level, and I believe in both of them, and I just think this is probably. We don't know what's going on, and it's only April and things, but boy, this feels like it has all the women's match of the year potential in the world.
Yeah. So it has all, like you said, has all the potential. It feels like the perfect end piece to what this show will be. Let's go through the comments here and we'll wrap up. Considering how the press conference was, will both of them be wearing Moxley level blood?
I don't know about Moxley. I don't know about Mox level, but I think there'll be some.
Moxley level blood, to be fair, is you flick him and I'm just kidding. I love Moxley.
Hit him with a rolled up newspaper and he bleeds. He's the Manny Fernandez of our age.
If it gets to that level, then it's Akira Hokuto level blood, and that's these two
some trickles, just some trickles
all out against each other, and it's going to be amazing. Brad, as great as Giulia is, Tam's one of my favorites, and I want her to win so badly. Tam and Poi has an album coming out this week. That is true. Her winning is cherry on top of this week.
Maybe so.
So the interesting thing with Tam too is that, right, the new faction, the Cosmic Angels are a whole new faction now. There are 3 people currently actually that are signed. There are 2 people signed to Stardom. Adin Sayori Anu, who is a freelance. As far as I'm concerned, she does a little bit of everything still moving forward. And then you have Colors, of course, who drop in and out from time to time, mostly when they're in Tokyo. So it's really down to those 2 and then Sayori Anu as like the official. Do they go with her to kind of try to build this new version of Cosmic Angels up? You know, she had everyone leave her and that drives her to the title, or is that what holds her back? I think that's an interesting part of this. I feel like there's actually a real chance of the title switch, definitely picking Giulia, but I'd give Tam a good 33% chance, honestly, way more than I expect on paper. Kudos to the build.
I'll tell you what, that the artist match will actually tell us quite a bit right there too, because if Restart ends up winning that thing, then I think a Giulia retention is a little more likely, but just a little bit, not just a little bit, because then of course Cosmic Angels would have something. They'd have those artist titles there. So
I think it's a credit to how well this match has been built that people are believing Tam can win this early into Giulia's reign. Yeah, I mean, again, that's a credit to. I think Giulia wins at the end of the night.
Yeah.
I think that's. But I'm also not ruling out Tam. Like, I'm not saying Tam has no shot this early in the reign. So, like you said, definitely at work. There's a hype video for this match someone posted on YouTube with Limp Bizkit's "My Way" as a song. I saw that. It was excellent. Let's see. Yep, Stardom at its best, even if we all assume Giulia will probably get close to or at Dream Queendom. I will say this now, she should not have the title at Dream Queendom. If she does, she has to retain. because we can't rinse and repeat for the 4th year in a row.
Correct.
Can't do it.
That's the other side of this that puts Giulia in a little more jeopardy, isn't it? You got to break that pattern. Have to.
Mm-hmm. I hope Giulia brings her A game for this match. I was not feeling the first 2 defenses. Triangle Derby really killed my interest in Giulia, but this story is excellent, so I'm excited for Tam. Yeah, no, I love the Suzu match. I thought was great, not to the level that I thought they could go. I thought the Mayu Iwatani match was awesome, but that's maybe the old school Joshi fan of me that loved these two just beating the hell out of each other around the outside of the ring and then there was no winner, so like that upsets people, but it was great. Like I watched that match back and I was like, this is disgusting in a good way. Let's see. I hate long title reigns. Read the room. Rossi and do something different on the 23rd. Let Tam finish the story. Yeah, long title reigns. That has been the classic, right, for Rossi as of late, and it's worked. So I can't. I was going to say
the crowds are up quite a bit, so it's hard to talk them out of it now.
Giulia's best on the chase, so it's definitely a good case for Giulia to lose, not just for Tam to win. That's important because Giulia's most important to Stardom's plan. Tam really might do it. I'll say Tam's just as good for the chase. We're watching it right now. We watched last time these two faced off with the title on the line. Tam winning would be incredible only because Velke will cry. And Tam, I know Velke does not like the Cosmic Angels as man. I am happy for Tam to get the spotlight after she got the short shift at Wrestle Kingdom. Yes, you're very right, brother. There.
Amen.
I think that's also going to play into her delivery here. I think she's going to be very determined to go out there and put on the biggest show possible because of that. And we'll finish up with this. The key match was brilliant. I hate Giulia. Oh wow, you hate Giulia. Now there was a lot of people that used to hate Giulia. But a lot of people have come around, but it's okay. The key match worked for the show it was on. It had to be different from all the other matches there, and it worked. It did. And it wasn't the main event. That is my dog barking, so that means it's time to wrap us up, folks. All right. Well, for Steven, you have any plugs before we head out of here?
My show with Jeremy Finestone will be on live on YouTube at 4:15 Texas time tomorrow, and that's 5:15 Eastern. It's Speaking of Strong Style here, Fight Game Media Network, where we talk all things New Japan, and that's what I've got going on. That'll be tomorrow afternoon. So again, I just want to say thank you so much for having me on here. I'm really fired up about this card. You can see from the comments that a lot of people are really anxious for this, and just should be a fun one. I'm looking forward to later this week when two people that are long-term experts with this really chew the fat on this one. There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I think we'll be hitting that Tam Giulia match even deeper because that's what Tam does. I'll add. Tim said I kayfabe hate Giulia. All right, that makes more sense. Okay. I got you. I wanted to add that in, but
she has a little bit of jerk to her in her character, doesn't she? She can be a jerk sometimes.
If you've been listening to this from the very start, thank you so much for joining me and Steven. It does mean the world. This will be up on the Patreon in audio form, actually as the second half of the podcast that I do later this week, but you can hear it here on YouTube at all times. If you're just joining us, if you joined us late, you can go back. This will be archived for good. It's not getting pulled down, so you can check that out at any time. Follow me at Scott E Wrestling on Twitter. Lots of big stuff coming up this week, mostly all around this show. So, that's what I do. That's what I do. Next Sunday, the day that this show happens, I'll be going live at 3:30 Eastern that day, 3 p.m. Eastern, to review this show. And as I did last time for Stardom Dream Queendom, that was a long conversation, but it was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. So I'm going to wrap this up because I'm tired and I had a great time, everyone. So long. See ya. Goodbye.